Welcome to the Live Up podcast, where we watch the movies from our youth to see if they live up. Quick note on how this will go. We will review, discuss, and score the movie in question to see if it lives up to us as adults and whether it lives up to kids today. I'm Jess Latterman.
And I'm Amanda Treat. On today's episode, get out of the water! We're gonna need a bigger boat. Actually, it's you're gonna need a bigger boat, my bad. But we are celebrating a very happy 50th anniversary to 1975's Jaws. Happy 50th.
I cannot believe it's 50 years.
You know what I just noticed today? This movie's rated PG.
Really?
And my local library is doing a showing in the park of Moana, which is PG-13. So technically, this is lower rating for kids.
Moana 2 is PG-13?
It's PG-13.
Really?
I don't know why.
Because it's terrible.
I didn't see it. You saw it.
It's terrible.
Yeah, based on that, I'm not going to the library viewing. But I digress. Jess, let's talk about Jaws.
Let's talk about it.
What is your personal viewing history with the movie Jaws?
So I definitely watched this and Jaws 2, sometimes one after the other, because it was on TV. It wasn't one of those that was on repeat, but it was definitely like in the TBS broadcast TV rotation.
Clearly, because it was only PG.
Clearly, right. Yeah, only PG. That's insane. But I guess I get it. You don't really see too much. So I remember really liking it as a kid, and we were very much a beach family. So we went to the beach all the time. I grew up on Long Island, for listeners who don't know. It all felt like comfortably familiar to me, I'd say. What about you?
That is very similar to me. I remember seeing one of the sequels first. Whatever the one is with the banana boat. There's like a bunch of kids on a banana boat.
The sequels all melt together.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Well, so I used to watch these because Megan, my friend who gets referenced a lot on
She's
this
got to
podcast,
come on, man.
She's back. She was the one who had cable and had parents who weren't paying attention to us. So I saw Jaws at her house probably for the first time. And then as we got older, this became like a staple of summer movie screenings. Those outdoor in the park, or I've seen it, with Boston Harbor behind it. Yeah. I've never done the floating in the water while watching it, but that seems like kind of a cool, scary thing. Although it would get cold as it gets dark. I
think it would be freaky.
I'm in New England.
If you were like,
the water gets cold.
Oh yeah, New England. It's set there.
It is. Yeah, but this is a very New England movie.
It is. I think it would be so creepy to watch this while you're just like kind of gently rocking on a boat. That would be kind of freaky.
That would be. Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
If someone just like knocked on the side of the boat in the critical moment, that would be hilarious. That's the kind of prank I would pull on someone else. So that hasn't actually happened yet. So other than that, I remember I took a film theory class when I was a grad student at Emerson College. And I remember the professor calling out that Quint represents the old Luddite way of doing things, and Hooper represents the youth and the new technology, and that Spielberg very much aligned himself with Hooper. I mean, they kind of looked alike, honestly. But Hooper lives, Quint dies. Spoilers, but not really. We're getting right into it. Yeah, I've seen this, I don't know, probably 5 to 10 times. And meanwhile, I just saw a play based on the making of Jaws called The Shark is Broken.
I want to see that.
They started it in the Edinburgh Festival and then took it to Toronto, took it to Broadway, and then they just did a running of it up on the North Shore of Massachusetts. And now they're taking it out to Martha's Vineyard for the 50th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then just wanted to add finally that right after this viewing for the podcast, my husband insisted on turning on the 90-minute Mythbusters Jaws special. So we watched 90 minutes of them disproving various things in the movie Jaws after watching the movie Jaws. So there was a lot of sharks in one sitting, but it was fantastic. Yeah. So Jess, would you like to give a plot summary of Jaws?
Is it possible to not know what Jaws is about? Probably not. But just in case, it's basically a low-key horror movie. It unlocks all of your water-related fears. Dangling legs have never been more terrifying, and boats have never been more flimsy. Watch out, beachgoers and drunk ship captains kind of situation. There is a hungry shark out there. And that's what it is.
Hungry shark.
Hungry shark. Yes.
Well, Quint said sharks can eat 6 humans per hour, I believe. So
And Quint, if folks don't remember, is essentially the drunk ship captain. I mean, not exactly the fountain of academic knowledge here.
He was weirdly good at trivia in this one moment, but
In this one moment.
with a 6 bodies per hour count, it makes me wonder how the morgue in Amity wasn't filled with more people, or like more people weren't missing from the island.
I
If
know.
that shark could eat that much.
The movie is pretty much half and half, setup plus beach going, and then half on the boat. But my memory of it as a kid was that it was more 2/3 beach, 1/3 boat. So I was actually like, oh, they're on the boat already, and it's halfway through the movie. So you got the vibe of 6 bodies per hour, even if they didn't show it 6 times.
Oh, maybe the whole time they're on the boat, like a ton of people died. They're like, we're looking for the shark. The shark's like picking kids off.
You could do a whole like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern situation with Jaws, and it's like all
brilliant.
of the body count that you didn't see on screen.
All right. That makes me want to go right into nerdy notes.
Do it. Wait, was this our first Steven Spielberg that we've ever done on this podcast? That can't be right.
No, we did a terrible movie called Hook, and that Steven Spielberg would call terrible.
Listeners, it is not a terrible movie. Hook
This
is
the first
amazing.
good Steven Spielberg movie.
Don't listen to Amanda.
The first good. I want to get Steven Spielberg on the line. He'd be like, "Yeah, Hook was terrible."
And I'd be like, no, sir, it was not.
Just to show you. Oh, circling back to Jaws. All right, so Jaws is set on the fictitious Amity Island, which is somewhere between New England and New York, or close to Long Island.
As a kid, I just imagined it as Long Island. Like, I think I was convinced that it was shot on Long Island, probably until you're about to tell me where it was shot.
They looked at parts of Long Island to shoot it and then decided Martha's Vineyard worked better because the water was really shallow, so they could have the crew standing out in the water 35 feet out, and it
makes sense.
Looked like they were submerged. So this is basically Martha's Vineyard, a block island, something around there, which does have a lot of great white sharks. I was talking with writer friend Anne McDonnell about this, how we were going to do this movie on the podcast, and she said she remembered when they put out the casting call for people to take the ferry over and be in that shot where all the people suddenly arrive.
Right, for 4th of July. Yeah.
Yeah, and that she's still very disappointed her parents said no.
Oh, that is disappointing.
You could have been in Jaws. They didn't know it was going to be a good movie at the time. It was just like a newspaper clipping, like, take the ferry over to Martha's Vineyard and appear in a movie.
And it's not like you knew who Spielberg was at this point. Probably not.
No, he was a nobody at this point. This is what made him.
Young jokers making a movie about sharks and be like, whatever.
Steven Spielberg was 26 years old when he filmed this.
That is...
Yeah, just made a face at me. You can't see it, but 26 years old.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not even his first movie. He and John Williams did a movie together called Sugarland Express the year before, but nobody saw that, so we're talking about Jaws.
Was this a hit when it came out?
Yes.
Okay.
Massive. Actually, jumping right into that, they did the whole production schedule, and this started running massively over budget, over schedule, because the shark kept breaking, which is why the name of the play I saw is called The Shark is Broken. So they had to invent all sorts of new rigs for filming underwater. Like, no one had really made a movie with those underwater shots before. So the film budget was supposed to be $4 million, but blew up to $9 million. And
which
all
is
the crew members... Nothing now, but back then that would have been a little bit. Yeah. So the crew members started calling this movie Flaws.
Oh, that's
it was
funny.
Just going on and on and on. Everything was going wrong. Universal almost canceled it, like after they'd started shooting it because of all these overruns. And the producers were trying to convince them to train an actual shark instead of using this mechanical one that kept breaking, which they were like, no, that's not a thing.
Not a
you
thing.
Can't train a great white shark.
That's almost worse than trying to wrangle pigs trying to have sex for Willow. So, okay.
Yes, that is definitely worse than trying to wrangle pigs trying to get it on. So because of the broken shark, Spielberg had to figure out how to keep filming, and that's where he came up with the idea to film it from the shark's point of view, which is why we get all those dangling legs.
So that was not the original intention?
I did not know
that. No.
Yeah, no, the original, like the opening shot, and we're going to talk about poor Chrissy in just a moment, was supposed to be watching her get like ripped apart and like all this gore. And they couldn't figure out how to get the mechanical shark to actually bite her. So they just showed her being like dragged around in the
Oh
water
my
and like her
God.
legs.
So
Yeah,
this
right?
makes me think a little bit less of Steven Spielberg because I thought it was a brilliant choice to do it this way.
I mean, it was a choice, but it was this was plan B.
That's so
Like
crazy
plan
because
A
it's
did
so
not
much
work. So
scarier when you don't see the
plan B is
thing.
iconic for the way it's the
Iconic.
shark's point of view, to the point that Alfred Hitchcock came out and praised young Spielberg for his cinematography innovation. And Spielberg has since said that the shark not working was a godsend.
It made his career.
It really did. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this in Tremors and other movies where
Yeah,
they've stolen this.
absolutely.
It's just iconic the way you have the shark camera,
Yeah.
shark cam.
I thought of Tremors a fair amount during this because I think it had been so long since I had seen Jaws. And then by the time I was watching Tremors, I didn't pick up on the references, but like, there's definite. I think we
Yeah.
talk about it during the episode?
We did, because
We
they do
did.
have like monster point of view.
Yeah.
I forget what the monsters are called in that movie, but yeah, there's definitely
Graboids!
like they're right. That's what they're called. Yeah, there's definitely camera shots from the graboid point of view, like low to the ground. You just see ankles that
Yes.
it's about to bite.
It's so effective to me. Even to this day, I think sometimes modern films should take note. This still works. To
Oh,
not see it,
absolutely.
it's so much better.
Yeah.
You just blew my mind. This is why I don't read the notes ahead of time.
A couple other nerdy notes. On my last trip to Martha's Vineyard, my husband Jeremy and I were talking to some of the locals in a restaurant, and they were talking about how the Jaws crew just left all the props all over the island. So for years, you could drive by that Amity sign, or there were like
Oh,
boat
that's
wrecks
funny.
along the shore, and just like stuff, like
That's hilarious.
half a shark, just whatever. They just abandoned everything.
Oh my God.
So they used to be able to drive around Martha's Vineyard and be like, this is where this happened, and that's where that happened. But
Someone's got all
at this
that
point,
shit in their garage. And
yeah, I mean, it's been 50 years, so I think it's been picked up or put on eBay, whatever happened there. So Jaws ran over budget, 9 million, but then on its opening week, it made 123 million out of the blue. Like, people love this movie. There was no such thing as a summer blockbuster until this movie came out. Yeah, like summer was where you stuck the crappy movies.
Really?
And
Oh,
winter
interesting.
Academy Award season was where the big blockbusters went.
In 1975, Star Wars had come out already, right?
No.
No.
No, it had not.
It hadn't? When did
No,
the first
because-
Star Wars
okay.
come out?
This also, in addition to
I'm looking
making
this shit
Steven
up.
Spielberg a household
Yeah.
name, this made John Williams a household name. He
Oh,
hadn't
my
really done movies
God.
yet either. So he did that Sugarland Express movie, but this is the movie that made John Williams too. And the first time he played the score that didn't
Oh,
to Steven Spielberg, Spielberg was like, haha, that's funny, but where's the real score? And he's like, no, just that, just two notes.
Oh, my God. I
Yeah.
love the score.
And this is John Williams' first Oscar award was for the score of this movie, and he happened to be the conductor at the Academy Awards that year. You know how they always have like
Oh,
the
that's so
orchestra
funny.
pit and a conductor.
Yeah.
So they had to like have him put the baton down and jump up on stage and receive an Oscar and then go back down and keep playing. So he didn't play himself off. That wasn't a possibility, but yeah.
Well, I'm glad he won an Oscar for this and it made his career because it's just two notes and I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is that people our age are conditioned to be in. It's like a Pavlovian
Oh,
response.
John Williams scored our entire childhood.
He did, but
And
this particular one.
on top of this, yeah, just Star Wars and Indiana Jones and just all the classics. E.T., love that.
This could put you in a place. Like, I think in a way, of
Yeah.
course, Indiana Jones and that and Star Wars can also, maybe Star Wars is the most famous example, obviously, but the dun, like you could just say that and most people know where you're going. Maybe not
Yeah.
kids. I should mention, I watch this by myself and not with kids. I don't.
Why not? It's PG, Jess.
I know, isn't that hilarious? I'm like, come on and watch Wayne's World where we make dick jokes, but not Jaws.
Watch Coming to America, kids.
Oh my God.
It's R.
Star. I was worried that my son, who's just now starting to get comfortable in the water, that this would just be a total
that could be a regression.
total regression because we like going to the beach. I didn't want any reason to have my
Yes.
kids not want to get in the water. So I don't know whether the score could resonate in the same way for kids these days. But I think anyone in their 30s and above, you just say, "Dun it," they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. One more thing for our nerdy notes. You know, we love our special effects on this show, not visual effects, not the computer stuff, because we didn't grow up with that. There is a big debate about what's going on with the shooting star that appears on the boat. Brody's standing there and it kind of like shoots over his head.
Small thing. Yeah.
Got a question from our friend Sarah's kids, I believe, last summer, because they were watching this movie, and they asked, is that shooting star real? Because it is just framed perfectly. Some people are like, it's fake, he faked it. And it's like,
I don't think you could have done
it looks
that.
real.
Yeah.
They were shooting this deliberately during the Perseid meteor shower that happens every August.
Oh,
so there were shooting stars going over the shot. And so I don't know if they had to do that over and over and over again to just get it right. But that there was some enhancement of the tail so that it just appeared brighter on screen. But that is what I choose to believe is like they did a little like hand touch up on the tail of the shooting star. So you absolutely see it.
Right.
But that was a real shooting star.
That's
so
cool.
That's where I landed. I know there's other people who are like, no, he faked it.
Yeah. I don't think you could fake it in 1975. I don't think you could do that.
We're landing on real.
I'm going to land on real.
All right. Well, we like to talk character by character, and we got to pour one out right off the bat for Chrissy, who is probably the most famous death since like the shower scene in Psycho.
Probably.
This is such a horrifying, grotesque way to die, and it's seared into all of our memories. Chrissy's going swimming. She jumps in the water, and that drunk guy is following her and just kind of passes out on the beach and doesn't see what happens to her. But, you know, come in, we're going swimming.
Yeah.
And just, shark point of view, looking up at her legs. Oh, Chrissy, never saw it coming.
Yeah, I forgot that this scene was done at night, that it was shot like kind of at dusk. And everyone knows the ocean or just water is creepier at night and
everything's creepier at night.
Everything's creepier at night, but there is something about like what is underneath the ocean and it's dark. I think that it's enhanced when it's the ocean's involved. So you already kind of have like your creeper sensors up. And then between that and even though I know it was going to happen, and you see the legs, it's so fucking
Chrissy.
good. And it's not too grotesque.
It sears into your brain. This is the death that terrified our whole generation.
I can see it in my brain right now, the legs kicking.
Your son would not go swimming if he had seen that death. Oh, just want to call out. So Chrissy's played by Susan Bacalini, if I'm saying that right. She was a stunt woman on top of being the actress.
That's great.
So they filmed that scene by putting cables on her and a 300-pound weight. And they had two people underwater just jerking her back and forth. So she really had no control over what was happening to her body as they were filming that.
Right.
Like it wasn't her just thrashing around the water imitating a shark attack. She had two people trying to like rip her apart on cords.
So it's super effective. I cannot stress enough that 50 years later, it's still really freaking good. Just the whole intense feeling you have leading up to it, and the fact that you don't see it, you just sort of see the blood afterwards, and you see the drunk passed out guy on the beach. It's so good. You know she got completely eaten and had a horrible death.
And not seeing it makes it so much worse.
So much worse. So much worse. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
Pouring out for
If you
Chrissy.
turn the movie off right there, you would still walk away thinking, oh my God, that was the scariest thing I've seen.
I'm willing to bet my son would not make it through that scene. Honestly, if you have kids who are scared of the water, they are not going to make it through that scene.
I went with my friend Sally. Hi, Sally, if you're
Sally.
listening. A few years ago, we went to an outdoor on Boston Harbor screening of Jaws, and she'd never seen it before. And I think that was the scene where she was like, nope, and walked out.
Yes.
Left.
Yeah. That's a nope scene.
She's Australian, so they have their own issues with sharks.
And other things.
But she would not sit through the rest of Jaws based on that scene. So
yeah,
poor Chrissy. But what a way to start a movie.
Epic.
Actually, when I was reading up, getting ready to record this podcast, there were so many people calling out how the deaths are scary, but you don't actually feel bad for anyone who dies in this at all. They move on so quickly. There's not a lot of lingering though on the deaths.
That's
like
true.
They don't take a moment to grieve or be sad. They just immediately move on. Like, we got to get shit done here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
that's a good point.
don't take a
Yeah.
lot of time to think about Chrissy. We've spent more time talking about her than they do in the movie, for sure.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
All right, so our main character, the hero, the everyman of Jaws, is Brody, played by Roy Schneider of Sequest. Oh, do you remember
I
Sequest?
never saw that.
Oh, I used to watch that a lot, mostly because I had a crush on Jonathan Brandis. But
Oh, yeah. That
uh,
guy. One day we will do Ladybugs.
oh,
One day.
actually, the Ladybugs clause is still floating out there. If we like 5 movies in a row, we have to review Ladybugs, and oh,
It
that's gonna
hasn't
be an
happened
ugly,
yet.
ugly
It
day.
hasn't. We might be close though, because all right, we'll see at the end of this episode.
We'll see how we do here. Yeah, so Roy Schneider of Sequest fame, Star Trek in the Ocean. Um, that was such a silly show, but I love that so much. All right, back to Roy Schneider, he was a very respected actor before he came onto this. He's in The French Connection, I think. He's like the bad guy. I haven't seen that
I
in a
haven't
very,
either.
very long time,
But he's your cop. He's like the
he's
protagonist.
your cop. He's your everyman. He's
Yeah.
really likable in this.
Yeah, I think he's very bland. And
Yeah.
I remember liking him a lot more as a kid because he's just like the one adult you could latch onto who knows something serious is happening. He's trying to do something about it.
Most of the other adults do seem bonkers in this movie, so he's a good tour guide.
He's the
through
least
this.
unhinged out of all of
Yes.
them. It's funny how inept he is at being a beachgoer. He's always in like more clothes than he needs on the beach. He like is afraid of boats. He can't tie a knot.
They call out immediately he's got a fear of water. He doesn't
Yeah,
like being
and
in the
what are
water.
you doing
They're
there,
making
man?
fun of him for moving to an island.
Yeah.
So he is the new chief of police in Amity, and the first line immediately is his wife calling out his New York accent. It's to show that he does not fit in here. He
Yeah.
is not a native islander. He is an outsider, and they're going to just treat him that way the whole movie. This fake Martha's Vineyard island, they're snobby. Like,
Yeah.
they're working class, but they are snobby.
They're snobby. They all wear a lot of three-piece suits on the beach, which is very strange, but that's okay.
Yeah, the fully dressed. There's that one lady who I think is actually like a native Martha's Vineyard resident, but also because they put a lot of people, like just grab people off the streets and threw them on the beach and threw them wherever, and they're all over this movie, and then none of them got credited. But
Oh.
this one woman who reappears in the sequel, and I think in the third one, but she right at the beginning is talking to Brody's wife, and she's just like, "You'll never belong here because you weren't born here," and she's just such a snob.
What a
And then you
bitch.
see her later, she's the one at the press conference who's like, "But are you gonna close the beaches?" Like, she just
They
has
get
this
townies so
tone.
well, I think.
Oh my god.
But
yeah,
he has to like, I mean, Brody has
she's
to
a
deal with
lot.
the townies, and he's honestly dealing with epic chaos. Like all the scenes, and I do remember this as a kid, the beach scenes are chaos. They're chaos even before the shark eats anybody, and everything is chaos. But also growing up going to Long Island beaches, like, yeah, those fucking beaches are chaos. There's people everywhere.
There's scenes where Chief Brody is on the beach and he knows there might be a shark or there might not be a shark, and he's afraid of the water anyway. And he's watching the kids in the water, and people just keep stepping in front of him to talk to him, and he can't keep his eye
I know
on
it
the
stresses
kids.
me out.
It's so
It
stressful.
is. It's those small
When he
details
loses
that are great.
visual
about this.
contact, like, ooh. Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
thing that Spielberg did really well. Like, it just builds up the suspense. Like, you know something's about to go wrong, and then just random guy steps in front of him to complain.
I know.
And
like you feel his stress that he
It
knows.
builds,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it's real,
Suddenly
and
it's
something
real.
terrible is happening.
I think it's funny when he like when the Richard Dreyfuss character comes over. Richard Dreyfuss character is like a scientist. He basically takes an entire bottle of wine and pours the whole thing out into a pint glass and just starts drinking it.
And proceeds to drink it. And then the next scene
that's
takes,
funny.
because Hooper, the Dreyfus character,
Richard
shows up
Dreyfuss,
with a bottle
yeah.
of red, bottle of white, because he's like, I wasn't sure what you were having, so I brought both. The next scene, you see Brody with the entire bottle of white wine, just drinking it
Just
right
drinking
out
it
of
right
the...
out of the bottle, and then they go on
It's
this like
hilarious.
rogue shark autopsy while they're drunk. It was like such funny chaos to me.
It's fun to see. Brody's very tightly wound at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And the more stressful it gets, he just starts drinking.
He just like is like fuck it.
Yeah, he hits the fucking zone very quickly. Like that very scene after he's drunk his pint of wine where they're like, okay,
Pint
we gotta
of
go do an
wine.
autopsy of this shark. Even Hooper's just like, are we allowed to do this? And he's just like,
Whatever.
I can do anything.
Yeah.
I'm the chief of police.
And
It's just unhinged.
just to place people, this is after a couple of people have been eaten, including a kid. So after the kid has been eaten, they put out a call to like try to catch a shark, and a bunch of Joker fishermen catch the shark. So they do this impromptu autopsy on the shark. And they're checking to see if they find body parts, essentially, and they determine that this is not the shark that ate the people. Yeah, I had kind of forgotten about that whole thing, but yeah, him reaching his f***ing zone is kind of funny.
Yeah, he gets a lot more interesting. So yeah, he plays a really good, really fun everyman compared to, he's got Quint on one side of him and Hooper on the other, and they're polar opposites, but he's the guy in the middle who just is trying to save the day. He's a good tour guide through
I
crazy
think he's
shark
still
town.
a good tour guide, and I think he would be for kids too.
He has brought his wife and family with him to his new post on Amity Island. We have Ellen Brody, played by Lorraine Gary. She stands out, even though they do not give her a lot to do in this. But she's still just super cool. She's like the OG MILF.
Yeah, she's pretty hot. Just so folks.
Yeah, she comes in, she's sultry, but she's still kind of like motherly. She turns to Brody at one point and it's just like, you want to get drunk and fool around?
I mean,
and I feel like that's every guy's dream wife. Yes, I would.
Yes, please. No, she's good. I don't think you needed to give her more to do. I know that we focus in this podcast on like what you give women to do. There's really no female character that's memorable in this, but she actually, I mean, she's not just hot, she's interesting.
They brought her there to, she's going to be a little bit pearl clutchy or protective of the children or like sad when he's getting on the boat to leave. But there's a toughness that she's portraying.
Yeah.
She comes across very three-dimensional, which I like. But
I do
they don't give her a lot to do.
One thing that's funny, if you're watching this our age or even if you're a little older, you'll recognize it as this like stereotypical parenting style from back in the day. Like the first scene, the older son comes in because he hurt his hand. This has nothing to do with the plot. So
no, but this is 70s parenting.
70s parenting. He is like bleeding on the floor, probably needs stitches. And she just sort of barely looks over and she just says, "You live."
Yeah.
And like, well, then it's so funny.
A few scenes later, when they know there's a shark and they know someone has died and the kids are out playing on the boat.
And her toddler is just wandering around the beach unsupervised. Like,
yeah, that they're just like out there. And that's when she pulls the "want to get drunk and fool around" line. And it's like, where are the kids?
Where are the kids with this killer monster shark?
Kids got eaten by the shark while you got drunk and fooled around.
And their kid who's in the 70s. Hospital. He goes in the hospital because he goes into shock. He doesn't actually get eaten by the shark. He's in the hospital and he asks the nurse for a cup of coffee. And I think that is hilarious. This kid is supposed to be like 8.
Yeah. No, needs a very serious cup of coffee.
He needs it. He probably needs it black. I mean,
yeah. The things he's seen, man.
Oh my God, the things he's seen.
I mean, he did just see a guy get eaten by a shark.
That's true.
Like 5 feet away, but yeah. But coffee will snap him right out of it. Oh, the 70s. All right. Let's move to your favorite bad guy type. We have a bureaucratic villain in this movie.
Yes.
We have Mayor Vaughn, played by Murray Hamilton, who looks like the missing Murray brother. Like, doesn't he look like Brian Doyle Murray a little bit?
See previous episodes. I find bureaucrat villains to be funny. This has popped up in Robin Hood.
Sheriff Nottingham.
It's also popped up in Silence of the Lambs. There's a category of bureaucrat villain that I find
came up in Wayne's World.
That's right.
Yeah, you love yourself a good bureaucratic villain.
And these are villains.
Paperwork, people. Paperwork.
These are people who are not like the real villain. Like they're not the monster, but they might as well be. The mayor is like, he's in a 3-piece suit all the time. Seersucker suit. It is July 4th and he's wearing a 3-piece suit. It's ridiculous.
He did have that nice blazer that had like little, was it whales or fish or something on it?
Yeah,
It was
it's
festive.
all very
Festive.
Martha's Vineyard looking. He does not want to close the beaches. He's like, I don't care if people are getting eaten. It's July 4th.
The same scene where Brody is panicking because he's trying to keep an eye on the water and the people keep stepping in front of him. Mayor Vaughn goes around and taps people on the shoulder and is like, "Why aren't you in the water?"
I know.
And sends everybody out one at a time. Like, come on,
Like
come on, get
to
in
a
the water.
cliff. It was ridiculous. And I couldn't remember whether he got eaten or not. And like, I couldn't remember. And I was like, really like, oh my God, I hope this guy gets it. But he doesn't. Spoiler alert.
No. I mean, he does kind of, it's not a great redemption, but the scene where the Brody child goes into shock and then needs a coffee to get over it. Brody pulls him aside and is just like, we are gonna fix this.
Yeah.
Like, we need 10 grand to get the crazy sea captain out here.
Yes.
But you see the mayor suddenly realize my kids were in the water too. That could have been my kids. It's still a very selfish sort of redemptive thought, but like it's hitting him finally. People are dying because of the decision making you've been pushing through here.
He's still
jackass.
a classic bureaucrat villain. You know it the second you see him. I found that amusing because it is my favorite kind of villain.
Yeah. No, he adds great tension to everybody who's trying to fight the shark.
Yep.
Yeah. This guy is a politician in denial about the
and
actual
he's probably
danger.
very hot and sweaty under there, but whatever.
Yeah, I gotta imagine.
Oh, yeah.
They're filming that in July on Martha's
Ridiculous.
Vineyard. Ugh. Yeah. It was probably like wool too. So Mayor is sweaty and gross. Maybe that's why he's making bad decisions. All right, so the shark starts attacking, and they have a little press conference.
There's
you get that one
beach
lady
chaos
who's like,
scene.
"Are you gonna close the beaches?"
Yeah, they have a town meeting.
She doesn't have a New England accent, even though I think she is a native Martha's Vineyard. It's just a weird
I think this
accent
is why
that
I
she's pulling
thought
there.
it was filmed in Long Island, because all the accents are all kind of jumbled. It's like there's some
Yeah.
vague New Englandness, but there's sometimes some vague Long Islandness.
Yeah. There's a lot of crossover, I think, between those crowds.
Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely. They're just right across the sound from each other, so
Yeah, there you go. Just a boat ride away.
Yep.
So as they're having this press conference, what are we going to do? You just hear someone put their fingernails and drag them across a chalkboard, and it just brings the whole thing to a literal screeching halt. And there we have Quint, I don't know what you want to call him. He is kooky
He's
fisherman.
the drunk, unhinged,
Crazy,
boat captain.
the chaos muppet of this movie.
Absolute chaos muppet. Yeah.
So he's your old surly shark hunter type. And I found out from watching that the shark is broken play. He was 46 years old
What?
when they filmed this.
So okay, wait. This is another thing. Okay, with the town meeting, I noticed this, and this
Yeah.
plays into this. First of all, I think you're 46. Are you 46?
I'm 46.
And I'm
I'm the
44.
same age as Robert Shaw was when he played
Ridiculous.
Quint in this movie.
He looks like he's like 80.
He looks so old. When I was a
Ancient.
kid, I thought he was so old, and now I'm his age.
Oh my god, that's ridiculous.
Like wrinkles and his leathered skin
Oh
and
my
everything
god,
about
he has
him
been
just
through some
looks
shit, man.
old.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Oh.
So all that town meeting scene, you get all the townies in there, and I was like, oh my god, everyone in this room looks like ancient.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's the issue, and man, we're going to get to a character in a little bit who is like the oldest looking parent in the history of cinema, but like the whole old looking parents thing that we keep calling out from all these movies we're
Yes.
watching. These people look like grandparents, but they're our age.
Or younger sometimes.
Or younger.
It's insane. So
Robert
Quint,
Shaw,
okay,
46 years old, Quint.
I could not understand his accent. I sometimes couldn't understand what he was saying.
So you asked me about this.
I texted you while I
before-
was watching the movie.
You're like, what accent is that?
Yeah, so confused.
I also don't recognize the accent. Now, if he had a Boston accent, he would be pronouncing shark as shack.
Right. No, he wasn't doing that.
If he had a New England accent, it would be a 3-syllable word. It would be shack.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not doing that either. And I had to research this. It turns out he is doing an impression of one specific guy on Martha's Vineyard who was like this crazy fisherman, or he was an oysterman. And they put that guy in the movie, but they had him working with Robert Shaw as a dialogue coach. And a lot of his nonsensical dialogue was like plucked out of like things he actually said made it into this movie that Robert Shaw was just like, yeah, you talk about the this, and like, I can't do the accent of this, but
I mean,
it's a man
sometimes
named,
it sounded vaguely British, and like
he's a British actor, but
okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Um,
I mean, unintelligible. There are times where I like turn the volume up while I was watching.
yeah, no, a lot of it just doesn't make sense. So it's this man named Craig Kinsbury who lived out in Martha's Vineyard his whole life and was known for just being total weirdo. And people
mean,
loved him, but like total weirdo. And
comes
he's
through.
just rambling and singing and doing all this crazy, saying all these things that everyone's just like, I have no idea what he's talking about. So his part got like written as they went because
Oh,
they were just
okay.
listening to this guy talk and like, yeah, say that. That's hilarious. We don't know what it means. Great, do it.
But I didn't like that. I think as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, he's like the old leathery. Now I know he's just 46 boat captain, but he makes no sense.
Not 80.
He's really unintelligible in some things. He's more of a vibe than a character. So I
Yeah.
think a younger audience would have a hard time liking this character. He was memorable to me as a kid because I just kind of understood the vibe. There's not much there, I think, for a younger person to grab onto because it's almost over the top to the point of like, you can't really penetrate in to relate to him.
See, I would go the other way with
Really?
that. I think he's timeless because he's
Oh.
so unplaceable.
This is where I wish I watched it with my kids because I don't know if my
Yeah.
kids could connect to him because I couldn't even understand what the hell he was saying.
Maybe skip past the first 5 minutes and then show them.
No, we're not doing we're not doing core memory.
Wait a few
fear.
years, get a few more summers under the belt,
Yeah,
and then
few
yes,
more.
see what they think of Quint.
The one thing I loved about him. So in this town meeting, we're kind of talking about that. He's like, I know what you're dealing with, and I could take care of this, but. And I didn't remember this as a kid. He's like, I'll do it for $10,000. I actually laughed out loud at that because he doesn't give a shit that this shark has eaten a few people
No.
already. He doesn't care that
He
it's going
doesn't
to
care
eat
at
more
all
people.
about anyone in this
The
town.
man wants his money. And I find
Yeah.
that to be funny.
Yes. No, something about this viewing made me think of, remember comedian Norm Macdonald? His just kind of like,
SNL.
I don't care about what you think of me. I don't care about any of you. I'm just going to say this, pay me my money. That vibe, yeah, it just came across as he's so detached from all of them.
Super detached. It's kind of funny.
But he's chaotic. I love it.
Total chaos.
I mean, you get his motive. He just wants the money. And what was it? Apricot brandy? There's
yeah,
some weird.
It's like some
Yeah.
weird brandy clause in there too.
Yeah, 2 cases of apricot brandy. That's what he wants.
The town, of course, at first is like, we're not going to give you your goddamn money. And then more people get eaten, and they eventually obviously do, and they all go out in the boat. But I think it's kind of funny that his motivation isn't to save anybody. It's just that he wants money. And I think if you made this movie today, you would have to give him some other motivation to want to do it. He is not a hero. He is not a
No.
hero.
I think that's why we like him. He's just kind of this rogue mercenary.
Yeah,
almost.
I felt conflicted about him. It's like I liked him, but I thought his unhingedness and unintelligibleness made it hard to like him.
I like watching him fight with Hooper.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
But I wouldn't want to be like one-on-one with him.
Him
if that
versus
makes
Hooper
sense.
is the classic class warfare that we like to talk about on this podcast.
Yes.
For the most part, because
Yes, it is.
Hooper's like this good-looking rich boy.
I just love he just does not lay off a Hooper until they get drunk together in that one scene. Because like,
Yeah.
there's some point where he takes Hooper's hands and he's just like, "You have silly hands. You can't do this." Like
can't
the fact
do
that he
this.
just told him, like, "You rich boy with your silly hands." Oh, so fun.
It is funny, and I'm pretty sure about this that it wouldn't land with a younger audience. So at some point in the scene you're talking about, like, or one of the many scenes on the boat, almost like toxic masculine ritual of starting to compare scars. And then they all start rolling up their sleeves and comparing scars. It's all very macho, and they're half drunk. And eventually Quint shares one of his like epic stories about World War II, and the boat he was on delivered the atomic bomb, and then it was shipwrecked, the whole thing. And I have to say, it's been too long, man. I don't think that younger viewers today, you'd have to explain to them, maybe not tweens, because they know what World War II is, nuclear bomb, and all that stuff. But I think anyone younger than that, you'd have to explain what all that stuff was.
After we watched the play and realized that this actor was 46 years old, started doing the math.
Cannot believe
'cause
you.
It was like, all right, 1975 minus this, minus this, minus this. Like, is he actually old enough to have been in World War II?
Yeah, good question.
Because it would have been 30 years. But then, yeah, I think we figured maybe Quint's supposed to be a little bit older.
Probably. He looks
know.
older.
He looks super old. On behalf of 46-year-olds, we do not all look like
No.
Quint, the crazy sea captain. But
Amanda,
yeah, no,
you're
we
not an unhinged,
we
unintelligible
really
sea
had
captain.
to stretch. Just the math. The math was hard to math on that one. 'cause
Yeah,
he
but-
is such a young actor.
But it's sort of the trump card of masculinity, because he's just like, I was in a shipwreck and people got eaten by sharks when I delivered the nuclear bomb to end World War II. And it is the ultimate trump card of like, I am the alpha dog
Yeah,
here.
no, he's literally like mic dropping at that moment.
Absolutely. And all the other two sort of totally are like, yes, you are the alpha dog now. But again, I'd say a younger viewer would not resonate as much to understand that, I think.
I think when I was a kid, I don't think I knew what that story was, or like didn't know that it was real, because that was a real story.
Yeah, no, I know, but I don't think kids would know.
But I think it gives you an insight into why he's the way he is. Or in the next scene, he talks about in that particular moment when they're all floating there after the ship has gone down and the sharks are picking people off, that he won't put a life jacket on ever again because it brings it back for him. And then you see when the Orca, the ship that they're on, starts to sink, he throws the life jackets at the other guys and he won't put one on.
He won't put
so
one
there's
on.
little things in there that as a kid, I was like, this explains him.
I'll give him that.
Not to go off on a tangent on other characters in this movie, but the person he's doing the impression of, Craig Kingsbury, is in the movie. He plays the fisherman Ben. Oh, what's his last name? Blanking. Ben Gardner, who is the one who's the floating head jump scare when they go underwater.
Which is a Tremors references that in their movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So him playing the character who has the floating head that scares everyone, like that's how kooky this actual person was. That was him.
That was him.
And he took that shot of his own floating head and turned that into his business card and used that the rest of his life.
I mean,
was handing it out like, hi, I'm Craig Kingsbury. I'm the floating head in Jaws.
So the floating head, it was just sort of funny. Like Brody and Hooper, they go out for like a nighttime shark hunt essentially. And meanwhile, Brody's like afraid of boats. It's all just kind of funny.
Brody's like, I'm drunk. Let's do this now, because once I sober up, this is never happening.
I know. And like then the Richard Dreyfuss character like puts on scuba gear because they basically are investigating this boat that they find floating in. This was a scary scene for me as a kid.
It is scary. They're in the dark. He's underwater.
Yeah. And then there's a hole in the boat and then the face pops in there and you get scared. It's still very effective, but I couldn't remember as an adult what actually happened at this scene. So I still had the feeling of fear as if I hadn't like, watched it before. Yeah.
I confused this scene with the scene in The Abyss. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's all underwater.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they like find a floating body and like a crab pops out of its mouth or something. In my head, this floating head jump scare was in The Abyss and not in Jaws. So I jumped again because I totally forgot it was this movie.
It still kind of scared me.
Yeah, no, it's a scary floating head underwater.
I mean, this is also, after that scene, I was like, I am glad I have not watched this with my kids, at least not my younger son who's 8. If he had made it to this point, I mean, it would have sent him. Because it's really that scary. And in a way, it's a very similar scene in Tremors, but it's not scary in Tremors.
Yeah, it's silly in Tremors.
It's silly. Yeah.
All right. There is a third guy who ultimately our 3 main guys are going to end up on a boat together for the entire third act of the movie. We have Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss.
So young.
He's a baby in this. But
yeah.
At the same time, he is playing like a hothead tech bro.
Yeah.
Which wasn't as much of a thing when we were kids, but now I'm just like, oh yeah, no, he would be like into crypto and AI, this jackass.
Yeah, but this jackass didn't register to me as a jackass when I was a kid. Like he was the scientist. I kind of still liked him now, and I liked him as a kid.
We tried to separate the actor from the performance. We did a whole thing on Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and it's like, yes, obviously Mel Gibson is like a crazy asshole.
Right.
Let's talk about the movie. I was really having trouble separating.
Mad Max is a crazy asshole. But anyway, keep going.
Actually, yeah, he's a crazy asshole. Richard Dreyfuss actually does seem somewhat similar to like the hot-headedness of this character, but like as he's aging, he just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, one thing I did see in the notes is he canceled himself. What did he do? This was not on my radar.
Last year, he came out to New England they were doing a screening of Jaws with a Q&A with Richard Dreyfuss, and it was buy your expensive tickets and a night with Richard Dreyfuss kind of thing. And he came out in a dress and then proceeded to say all these like bigoted things about trans people and homophobic comments and how like women shouldn't be actors and like just all this really sexist homophobic stuff. And people were walking out. Like it was super offensive. And then the theater had to issue an apology. So that was like a big headline up here. But then after that happened, basically his kids came out and they were saying that they took his Twitter account away from him because he has just kind of turned into this crazy
old man.
Hates DEI. He's just turned into like an older, bitter bigot than it was probably in there. And then, yes, as he's aged, it's gotten worse. So that just stuck with me. And then there's parts of Hooper, the character, that are funny, and he's got some funny lines, and he is the science guy.
Yeah.
But he also just comes across as this rich prick. And I don't know.
You know, I don't really get a rich prick read from him because he still knows what he's doing. He has the right equipment. He's like a good foil for Brody, who's like afraid of boats and pours a whole bottle of wine.
But he's ultimately the foil for Quint. Like the
That's
two
true.
of them have opposite approaches to life at sea. It is fun to watch them get drunk together because it's the joining of the two opposite parties over like, look at my scar and let's sing a sea shanty and let's get drunk.
I do think, though, because he's so young, he's so visibly young compared to the other two characters, that a younger person or a kid would relate to him, would still like him. I don't think he comes across as a prick.
This viewing, and again, really hard to separate the actor from the performance.
Yeah.
This was the first time I noticed. And I also had just seen The Shark is Broken with all the behind the scenes stuff going on, and was noticing more of an attitude than I'd ever noticed before, and had been primed to see it, basically. So
yeah, he also, like, his character has balls. He gets on a wetsuit,
I
goes
just
in
don't
there
like
with the
him.
shark.
I'm gonna throw my hands in the air.
I mean, okay, resident lesbian of the podcast now, the great defender of this guy. He goes shark diving at night. He goes in the shark cave when they're out on the boat. When the shark then demolishes the cage, he somehow escapes and is like essentially hiding underwater. Like, he's kind of really ballsy in this.
So, interesting thing I learned doing the nerdy notes and then also from the play. So, Jaws is based on a book. And in the book, this character Hooper has an affair with Brody's wife.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And Spielberg was just like, oh, that's just way too much tension to put the three of them on the boat with that also going on in the background.
Yeah, too much.
But in the book, Hooper dies.
Okay.
And in the original first few drafts of the script, Hooper died in the shark cage. And the thing that saved him and changed the script was when they had a couple in Australia who were shooting live footage of great whites attacking cages.
Yeah.
And they had this epic shot of a great white destroying a cage.
Amazing.
But there was no one in it.
Oh.
And so they thought about that, and, you know, Spielberg liked this character, and he thought, all right, what if we have a shot of him swimming away from the cage, and then the shark demolishes the cage so he gets away? And they changed the script.
Yeah.
But originally he was supposed to die too, and that it was just Brody standing by himself.
Yeah, I have to say, in this viewing, I couldn't remember if he died. I remembered that Quinn had died. So when he was in the shark cave, I was like, oh, does he die? Like, I couldn't remember.
Maybe he does. He was supposed to.
I was kind of okay with him dying, but
Yeah.
I'm also okay with him surviving. I really disagree. Like, I don't think he comes across as a jerk. I think he comes across as kind of bold, and I think a younger person might relate to him.
I think he's picking fights, but it's with characters that you've already established are either chaotic or bureaucratic villains.
Yeah, I already
you're
don't
kind
really
of-
like Quint because he is
Yeah,
unintelligible.
you're kind of forced to be on his side when they start the fights, although Brody's just kind of standing back the whole time.
Yeah, this is when
just like,
Brody
have at it.
becomes vanilla. I mean, like, he's just useless on that boat too, which is like, there's something
Yeah.
funny about that. He might as well be
he's not
drinking in the corner.
He's afraid of water.
He's afraid of water. I didn't bring this up when we were talking about Brody, but like, he's a terrible shot. He's trying to shoot the shark on the boat, and he fucking sucks.
Well, I mean, they do show like the boat is rocking, and he's just like,
Okay, whatever, man.
I don't know how to
He's
adjust
supposed
for
to be
this.
this tough New York City cop, and he sucks. It's the rich science boy who knows what he's doing and could keep pace with Quint.
I love, this is just another Quentin Brody line. Like, the boat catches on fire, and the way Quint's just like, Chief, put the fire out. Very calm. The whole boat is sinking. There's like a shark halfway
There's
on the deck. I'm like,
fire, and
Chief, put the fire out.
yeah, it's put the fire out, will ya? It's so funny. I laughed at that line. It was great. I thought that was my favorite Quint line for sure.
It's so nonchalant.
So
I do love that
nonchalant.
line. I like the Quint versus Hooper fight. I mean, they're just being so petty to each other the entire time they're on the boat. It adds comic relief because you're really waiting for a shark to destroy all of them.
Yeah.
And let's bicker let's Real Housewives of the Orca this situation.
So we skipped over this for Quint. So Quint dies, and it's sort of related to Hooper. And I don't think at this point Hooper realizes that Quint dies because Hooper's like hiding somewhere underwater. But when Quint dies, it's really the first time the viewer sees the shark for the first time. Yeah. I remember as a kid seeing the shark full body for the first time is like intense.
They're revealing the monster.
And it's the most gruesome death because Quint is like hanging out of the mouth of the shark. It's really gruesome. The shark is at the bottom of the boat and the boat's on an angle. Quint knows he's going to die because he starts sliding towards the shark. But it's really anticlimactic to me now, I guess 50 years later.
They don't put any sentiment into anyone dying in this movie.
It's not just the sentiment. The shark itself to me did not feel like the dramatic reveal that it did when I was a kid. Yeah. And I think that kids these days would not be that impressed with the shark size. And I almost wish that I never saw what the shark looked like.
No, I mean, the shark, let's talk about the shark.
Yeah,
Shark's a character. Shark has a name. Shark is named Bruce.
Really?
After Steven Spielberg's lawyer.
Oh, amazing.
And the shark in Finding Nemo, who is named Bruce, is named after this Bruce.
Oh, that's so
Bruce
funny.
the shark. Oh, you know how they have that like Fish Eaters Anonymous meeting? Like, good day, Bruce.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that.
Fish are friends. So Bruce the shark.
Finding Nemo. It's a good one.
That's a great movie. So they rigged up these mechanical sharks. They were wicked expensive. They were $250,000 per shark, and they had 3 of them. And they tested them, but they didn't test them in seawater. And just everything went wrong when they went out to actually shoot this. So we end up with shark cam. We end up with a lot of gruesome deaths that would have been campy probably get cut out of this movie completely, and they just don't show it. The shark only appears in 4 minutes of the film.
Oh, wow.
If you put all the shark shots together, 4 minutes of shark. And it doesn't look like a real shark. I mean, except for the underwater footage of actual sharks breaking the cage.
It's not that it didn't look real to me. It just didn't look that scary. By the time you saw it, it was not that scary to me. Whereas when I was a kid, I was like, that's a big shark. Oh, my God. And I'm not saying CGI would have made it better, but I think that kids these days would be like lame.
I think this set our idea of, a shark could be 25 feet long and like, yeah, all right, that's a thing. Whereas that's not a thing. Like, this is a very big shark, and it's adjusted our expectations for what a shark can do. This is where the Mythbusters episode was really helpful.
Yeah.
Because they were testing different types of sharks and their body weight and their speed. And could one crash into the side of the orca and cause water damage? No, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Could it drag a boat backwards? Could it drag those barrels that they shoot into it? This is absurd that this shark would exist. Like, this is not a thing. And by the time we saw Jaws, it was like, oh no, this is absolutely a thing. You know, like in our head, this myth now exists.
The myth of the shark, though, if it goes into the side of the boat and causes damage, that's all still pretty believable. Like the cat and mouse part of when they're on the boat is still really good.
Also, Mythbusters called out, you cannot stick a scuba tank into a shark's mouth and then shoot it and blow up the shark. That's not
a thing. That's too bad.
It would like project maybe back into the shark, so you might choke it, but it would not explode.
Yeah, this is also where Tremors ripped off of Jaws, but yeah.
It really did rip off more Jaws.
I almost wish we had done this episode before Tremors, because
I know, I probably would have had a appreciation for how much parody is going on.
We might need to redo that one.
I didn't.
Anyway.
We'll see. Might be our Yom Kippur episode or something. Let's talk about a couple of other random characters that pop through here. We got to talk about Mrs. Kinter. That's Alex Kinter's mom. Poor Alex.
Poor Alex.
Gets eaten off of a raft. And Mrs. Kinter, played by
This
Lee
is in one of the Chaos
Fiero.
Beach scenes. So this is probably the most famous scene in the movie.
Yeah. So she loses her son. and she puts up the $3,000 reward that sends everybody else out with dynamite and chum buckets chasing sharks. But the thing that she's famous for is being the oldest looking mother in the
Oh my
history of
God.
cinema.
She's a grandma.
Guess how old she is?
Oh, I'm going to be so depressed. Tell me.
She's 45.
Oh, really?
45. Yeah.
45. I am 44.
I think
am a
40.
year
It was
younger than
44
her.
or 45. She is your age.
Well, maybe
Or
I look as wrecked as she
Maybe
does.
that's what you have to look forward to next year, that you'll look like Mrs. Kinder. She shows up after her son dies. I mean, she looks old before her son dies. She's on the beach with like the thick Coke bottle glasses and like
helmet hair.
It's like a librarian grandma goes to the beach.
That's exactly what it is.
But then she appears in this scene later when she is going to like confront Brody because he knew there was a shark and now her son is dead, and couldn't a Brody have stopped this from happening? But she comes out in this black dress and she is like the Italian grandma from hell. She looks
smacks him.
so old. So old. And she's got the little black veil over her face.
She could be like a widow from like The Godfather. I mean, she looks so old.
She looks 80. She
80.
looks so old.
So ancient. I am a year younger than her. That's insane.
Yeah, you have that to look. I'm older than she was.
Jesus Christ.
I'm Quint's age.
That's, oh my God. Straight to the urn, everyone.
Oh my God. Don't I look great?
You look
I feel
awesome.
like I look so youthful.
The thing is, I probably look like this ancient person on the beach. That's probably exactly what I look like on the beach.
If you put on Coke bottle glasses and like a granny outfit and went to the beach, maybe.
I'm going to do that this summer and send
No,
you a
your
selfie.
skin is, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Don't wear sunblock ever again and get those thick glasses. She goes up to Brody and slaps him across the face and does it for real. And they did 17 takes of that.
ouch.
And Roy Schneider said that that was the most painful day of shooting in his entire career.
That whole like sequence is great. I don't know if it's like the actress or just how they set it up. It is sad, right? Like, I mean, as a parent too, it's like
Yeah, no,
sad
I
to
mean,
see.
she's just lost her child, but it's so distracting.
But it taps into a fear. There's a chaotic beach scene. They see a shark. Everyone's running out of the water. There's blood, and you know she's looking for her kid, and she's yelling for her kid, and she's just one of the many chaotic elements in that scene. You feel her stress so much.
There is a sad moment. She's the only one left looking for her kid, yet calling his name.
Totally. But
Yeah.
even without the sadness, the stress that builds, just her frantically looking for her kid, like, is a relatable stress that you kind of feel it in your chest.
So famously, this actress, Lee Fierro, who played Mrs. Kinter, she went into a seafood restaurant one time, like years later, and saw the Alex Kinter fish sandwich on the menu. Went up and was just like, what is this? And the manager of the restaurant was the kid who had played her son Alex in the movie.
No.
So they had a Kinter reunion in a fish restaurant.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that.
Alex
Kinter
Kinter
lives.
fish sandwich. Yes. He's the manager of a fish restaurant now.
That's amazing. I love it.
All right. Before we go to our random thoughts, good things, bad things, just wanted to talk about this play I saw called The Shark is Broken.
I want to see this now.
Because I walked into the theater and saw the set, like before you even like go down and take your seat, just the set of the orca kind of
That's
half
awesome.
crashed onto the stage, and the chum
Nice.
buckets and just everything recreated to look like this. I started laughing so hard. Just
Nice.
delighted to be there. And then looked around and they were selling these shark attack cocktails in the lobby that was like a clear plastic cup, but it had some drink made out of blue carousel, so very, very turquoise, but a shot of grenadine at the bottom, and then like
so
a
you get the
plastic shark
red.
just like face down in it.
Nice.
So it looked like someone had been murdered at the bottom of these drinks.
Nice.
It was
nice work.
funny, and people were just walking around sipping on them.
Yeah.
And just it set the mood. I loved it. It's currently on Martha's Vineyard if you need to see it this summer, aligning with the 50th release of Jaws. And it was written by Ian Shaw, who is Robert Shaw's son.
Oh, that's funny.
Who he wasn't playing his father in the version I saw, but in previous runs of The Shark is Broken, he had played his own father.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I guess Robert Shaw who was a writer and was a screenwriter and a playwright himself, kept a lot of journals and notes
Yeah.
while he was doing this. So they used those
Oh, that's
to
cool.
write this play. Yeah, so it was a real
And he's no longer
behind
with
the
us,
scenes.
right?
He died at age 53,
Oh,
so
okay.
like a couple years after Jaws. And they
Oh.
talk about that in the play, that his own father had only made it into his 50s and how he didn't want to be like his father, but he clearly inherited a bit of
Oh,
the
that's too
drinking
bad.
problem and rough life, but clearly had quite the impact
Yeah.
playing Quint. So the whole play is just this third act where they're out on the boat together. It's the three main actors, nobody else,
Yeah.
and showing how, with all the delays in the film, because the shark was broken.
Right.
The shark was broken,
Yeah.
and it just went on for weeks and weeks. So I think it starts on week 9, and they've already overrun everything, and it's reached the point where the
Flaws.
three of them are just driving each other crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern or a Waiting for Godot, where they're waiting for them to fix the shark.
Yeah.
And there's moments where they have these deep conversations about, what you want out of life, or what was your family like, or like, what do you want to be as an actor, or like
Yeah.
dreams, ambitions. But then most of it is just them fighting.
Mm.
Because in real life, Robert Shaw was just like fighting with Richard Dreyfuss. And you've got Robert Shaw was stashing liquor bottles all over that boat. So like, there's like little things you can pop up, and there's like a pocket in there, and you'd have like a bottle of scotch down
Oh
there.
my God.
And just the drinking just increases, and like all three of them at certain points are just getting hammered because they're waiting for the shark to get fixed, and like going whole days without shooting anything. It was so funny to watch. You get to see little things like Roy Schneider apparently liked to go tan with his shirt off while they were waiting. By the end of the shoot, he was like an entirely different skin color.
No,
And when he
he's
started, it was just
darker.
like, what are you doing, man? The cool thing though, so, and this really happened, was Robert Shaw, that whole monologue he does about the USS Indianapolis, that was originally supposed to go on and on and on and on. And Robert Shaw was just like, this doesn't work. Let me rewrite this.
Oh,
'cause he's a
interesting.
playwright.
Yeah.
And they show him working on it, rewriting it, and he condensed it, and he made it like have much more of a punch. The first time he tried to do it, he tried to method act it, and he was like, well, they were just drinking, so I'm gonna drink before I do it.
Uh-oh.
Could not get through it. Could not.
I mean, honestly, that's how I felt like watching him on screen.
Yeah,
Like,
no, he was like
seems like that.
on
Can't
the
get through it.
floor,
Yeah.
drooling, could not speak,
Nice.
and
Nice.
but then pulled it together and was like, okay, don't method act that, and did it sober, and that was the version we got, and that's how the play actually ended, with that final. They recreate that whole scene, so it was just really fun to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I enjoyed it.
I know. I would love to see it.
All right, well, do you want to move to random thoughts? What do you got for Jaws?
Like I've mentioned, I think the shark reveal was kind of anticlimactic, and I don't think kids would really be that impressed with it today. Also, kids these days are taught to like love nature. Even my son has a
Yeah.
book about how sharks aren't really monsters. I actually think kids today might be Team Shark.
Which is fair. This movie did turn a lot of people against sharks, and there was a lot of sharks killed, probably because of this movie.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily. So there's a point there. Random thoughts that I had, just going with the playwright theme here. There's that trope about Chekhov's gun. If you see a gun in the first act, it's got to go off at some point. This movie has the first ever Chekhov's gun is a compressed air tank.
Yeah.
The second you see the compressed air,
Yeah,
and
you know.
Hooper's like, no, careful, it's compressed air.
Oh my God. It's almost too much. Yeah, you know.
It's over the head, like, oh, okay, is something going to happen with the compressed air later in this film? Yes, it is. Another thing that is just random, there's just this throwaway scene where two guys are trying to win that $3,000 by
Oh,
catching
I
a
like this
shark.
scene.
You see them on Brody's dock trying to bait the shark with the wife's holiday roast.
Yeah.
And they're throwing like a big hunk of beef, it looked like, into the water to try to catch the shark. But who is doing a giant roast beef for the 4th of July?
I don't know.
It's the 4th of July weekend. Who's roasting anything?
I know. Yeah.
Was it like weird in 1975? Like we had a formal sit-down dinner with a roast beef? Like
I
it's
don't
hamburgers and
know.
hot dogs, people.
I mean,
What are we doing?
they're wearing 3-piece suits on the beach, but that's a great
Yeah,
scene, regardless of the roast, because
it is a great
it's
scene,
another
but
scene where you don't see the shark. The shark sort of catches one of the barges, and one of the guys falls in the water, and then it's like, is he going to get out of the water? And
swim, swim, swim.
yeah, but you don't see the shark. You see the barge that's clearly sort of attached to the shark coming at him faster and faster. And I, even watching it again, was like, wait, does he die? I don't remember. And it's intense.
Yeah.
It's good. And again, it's at night, so it has that creep factor. It's a good scene.
Yeah. Why are we fishing in the dark with your
What are you
wife's
doing?
roast beef? But why, moreover, why is she cooking a roast beef for the 4th of July?
That's a good point. Everyone is sleeping on the couch for this assault.
All right. Things that suck or are cringy. What do you got?
Yeah, so I think we've talked about some of this, but I think the Scar comparing is a little toxic masculinity, but I'll allow it for the most part. All the women, they're either teenage bikini clad or they have harem helmets and are grandma moms. I mean, there's nothing in between. Maybe the wife is, but it's like, ugh. I don't think it's like cringy to the point of like, you can't watch this or it's like not cool anymore. It's just, I guess, a product of its time.
Yeah, no, this movie barely passes the Bechdel test.
I mean, the wife
only
is cool
because,
yeah.
but this is just a sign of movies in the 1970s. They didn't really give a shit if women did anything interesting for the most part.
I mean, honestly, like if you made this today, one of those characters would be a woman, but one of the main three. I was okay with this one. It didn't bother me as much as other movies we've seen without good female characters.
Tremors made the scientist a woman.
That's true. There wasn't a bad female character. Like the mom, the grandma mom was memorable. The wife was kind of cool. So it's not like you had like shitty female characters, or they just weren't the main parts, and I was kind of okay with it.
Yeah. One thing that sucks, and I've mentioned how we never take a moment for any of the victims in this movie, but
We don't.
the second victim is the shark eating the dog.
I
And
know.
they
I
just
forgot.
don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
you just
happens.
see, I forget what Fido, whatever his name was. I don't even know his name, but like the little stick floating in the water.
Yep, that's all you see. It's good.
Nothing.
I mean,
Like,
it's a good death.
This guy's dog just got eaten by a shark. Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. I don't know. There's that website about does the dog die? Yeah. The
Dead.
dog dies in Jaws,
Totally
but
dead.
we don't even take a moment for
No.
it. This isn't John Wick. We're not thinking about that dog ever again, apparently. So that, to me, that sucks.
I kind of liked it, to be honest. Not that I don't like dogs.
dying.
No, because it was kind of cool the way they did it. I think it adds to the tension. I'm okay with the dog
Yeah.
getting eaten.
All right. Well, things that are great about this movie. What do you got?
I still think the slow tension, not seeing the shark, is amazing still. I mean, I think that filmmakers now should take note because it still works. You don't need much. The opening scene was so good. The dangly legs. I don't think this is my nostalgia for it for thinking it's great. It genuinely builds a kind of like tense fear to not know what's there. So I think that still comes through 50 years later. It is absolutely there. And I guess on a personal level, I still really enjoy the beach chaos, even though people die. I think maybe because I grew up as like a beach
She's
kid.
into beach chaos,
I'm into like bureaucrat villains and beach chaos, and I liked that. I think that
Love it.
still kind of adds to the picture.
Yeah, same. I'm going to second that. Well, not the beach chaos, but I'm going to second that. This movie is structured really well. It is like your exact hero's journey. Challenges just keep escalating and escalating. You've got that all is lost moment, and you get, the dark night of the soul, and then the hero triumphs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like by the book, really good structure, but it's also somehow funny. Like they cut the tension.
They do.
When they need to.
Yeah.
Just the characters saying funny things, the pouring yourself an entire glass of wine.
I did get a
like
kick
there's
out of
things
that.
in there
Yeah.
where you just feel a little lifted and not all doom and gloom. We touched on John Williams' impact here and how he won an Oscar for this
good.
score, but the music is iconic.
Iconic.
I mean,
So good.
and then wanted to call out that, I mean, we've talked about how the camera work was innovative, but also the other practical effects, the way they were tying poor Chrissy's stunt woman down and like shaking her out of control. Like that looked real.
It did. Absolutely.
it was-
practical effects. Are
And
great.
then I was noticing when the boat they're on, the Orca, it gets attacked by the shark, it starts sinking, and then the shark is like dragging it and pulling that around. That looks really solid too.
Oh, yeah.
They were doing that somehow with
rigs
probably
and
being rigged underwater and dragged. I think everything about this looks realistic, even though it's totally not. So
It does. It does. It
kudos.
really does.
Like, you get sucked in and it does feel real and scary, even if the shark was a letdown when you finally saw it. Any closing thoughts, closing arguments other than what we just said?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my closing thought is a mixed bag because I think that it's still enjoyable for me as like a 44-year-old to watch it because I have some nostalgia for it. I think it's one that will ultimately land in almost like a film school kind of way because it's like interesting techniques and there's so many references to it. It's a classic. It's iconic. Really don't think my kids would like it. I think they would feel I think they would like the intensity because I think the intensity of it comes through. The effectiveness of that all still comes through. But I think some of the other stuff just lives in the land of iconic, but not necessarily gonna live on and on. Maybe that's a little harsh, but I think that's my closing thought. But it still feels iconic for you and I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually am surprised that the intensity was still there. I thought it was going to be lame.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. The intensity is still there, and nostalgia for us, clearly not for my friend Sally, who walked out of it after the first 5 minutes. As an adult, was too scared to watch that. Yeah. I think there's almost a simplicity to it. Like, it's just very clear. It's a monster movie, but it's so well done.
Yeah.
There's no confusion about what we're doing, who the good guys are, and what we need to do to win the day here. So I would counter that. I think it would still hold up for a kid. Like, it's just so clear.
It is. Yeah, I think maybe I really wish I had seen it with them, but I think that young adults might find it and find it almost interesting from a nostalgia that they didn't experience kind of watch because it is different to have things not be revealed. I would recommend it to a 20-something who doesn't have any attachment to it. And I think they might still like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, do we want to move to ratings?
We do. And for new folks, we do 2 different ratings, 1 to 10, 1 being garbage, 10 being Princess Bride as our scale. We first rate it for adults. Does it live up to adults today? And then we rate it, would it live up to kids today? So first rating as adult in that scale. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go with an 8.
8.
I'm going
you went
high for me.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed rewatching this. And my husband, Jeremy, said, no, I don't want to watch it with you because we just saw this play and I feel like I just watched it.
Yeah.
And then he wandered in about 10 minutes in and sat and watched the whole thing
okay.
with me. And then we watched that Mythbusters episode on Was This All Feasible?
Yeah, I'm close to you. I think a 7.5 was my rating because my bar is when it gets the 8 or higher. I have to find something new to like about it. But a 7.5, it's solid. I still thought it felt fresh. It felt good. I enjoyed watching it again for sure. So 7.5 for me.
Well, we are at 15.5 for adults.
Not
Once
bad.
again, that is higher than the total score for A Year Without a Santa Claus.
As it should be.
Just need to keep calling that one out. That is the lowest of the low bar.
Worst movie ever.
Until we watch Ladybugs.
Listen to the episode, skip the movie until we watch Ladybugs. Oh my God. So now we're going to do the same scale for kids. Would it live up to kids today? So same scale, 1 garbage, 10 Princess Bride. Unfortunately, did not watch it with my kids, but what do you think?
All right. And caveat, obviously this is for older kids, even though it's rated PG, which is a lower rating than Moana 2. The young kids would be friggin' terrified of this and not want to go swimming or to the beach for years.
Yeah.
You've been warned. You knew that. I still think this would be a lot of suspense and kind of fun and then relief for kids. So I'm going to go 7.5, which I detect is going to be higher than where you go with it. But I think when I saw this as a kid, it was scary, but I felt cool because I made it all the way through. And I feel like it's still got enough suspense in it that would carry through to today's kids.
I mean, I'm a little influenced by your score. I was going to go below a 5 because I do think it's anticlimactic for kids. But I do also think that the intensity of it would still be there for them. I'm going to bump it my original score up to like a 5.5 because it's still
Okay.
good filmmaking. It's good filmmaking, but I don't think it's like Labyrinth. Like kids really like that. So 5.5 for me. So not,
Okay.
I can't go above that. Yeah.
All right.
What's our total?
That is fair.
Do math.
We're at 28.5,
Oh, you're
which
on the line.
is actually tied with Willow
Really?
that we did recently.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm not sure if that should be the case.
We were like solid sevens on Willow
Okay.
with one 7.5, but yeah,
Interesting. Same as Willow. Interesting.
same as Willow.
All right. Well, that's not the final question. The final question is a yay or nay. Does it live up? We both have to agree. I have to be honest. I didn't really think about it too much beforehand, and just gonna let the episode play out.
I feel like I'm leaning a clearer direction.
Yeah.
I vote yes, this does live up. I want to watch it again. I think kids would enjoy it. This has lasted the test of time after 50 effing years.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it lives up for me too. I mean, I did a lot
Okay.
of crankiness about how I think it might be okay for kids.
You had me worried there.
I know.
This is one
I
of
was
the
being
classic
dramatic for you.
classic cinema iconic films.
Yeah, and listen, we have watched classic stuff that we've hated. I didn't hate this. I actually really, really enjoyed it. I think anyone our age, go see it. It's fun. It lives up. How could it not?
Yeah.
So congratulations, Jaws. You don't have that many flaws.
This will be everywhere this summer. They're going to re-release it into theaters because it's the 50th.
See, I would
and
see it in the
then-
theater. I've never seen it in the
That would be
theater.
so much fun to see on film.
Maybe
Well,
I'll
I've
take-
seen it on film at like outdoor venues. Never seen it in like a really creeped out silent theater where everybody's gasping at the same time.
Go see it, everybody. It definitely is worth your time, especially now 50th anniversary. Go feel old, like with
But
the granny moms.
Not Mrs. Kinter old. None of us are Mrs. Kinter old.
But go see it again and then tell us what you think. Were we too harsh? Was I a little cranky? Were we too generous? Is it just too iconic? We couldn't see past it. Let us know at Live Up Pod on all the socials. But Jaws, you live up.
Thanks for listening. Go get yourself a bigger boat.